There are now 8 films in the Transformers franchise, and with no signs of letting up, there will likely be 8 more films before they give it a rest. But in this installment, we're taking a trip to Cybertron to learn the humble beginnings of Optimus Prime, back when he was a cogless mining robot who just wanted to know the truth about the history of his homeworld. It's Transformers 1. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm leaving the theater. All right, this is Ronald, and I am leaving the theater after seeing Transformers 1. Transformers 1, written by Eric Pearson, Andrew Barrer, and Gabriel Ferrari. Directed by Josh Cooley. Starring Chris Hemsworth, Brian Tyree Henry, Scarlett Johansson, Keegan-Michael Steve Buscemi, Laurence Fishburne, and John Hamm. So, this is an animated film that tells the origins of Cybertron and the beginnings of Optimus Prime and all of his pals before they leave Cybertron and bring all of their problems from Cybertron to Earth. It talks about the civil war that they have and kind of what sparked all of that, and basically just the original story of these Transformers before we know them as the Transformers that they are now. It is a prequel in a world where Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse exists and Mutant Mayhem from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that exists. This actually was a much higher bar to clear than it would seem. Because on the one hand, it's technically a children's movie because it is an animated movie. It is marketed towards kids. But also the bar is now higher because of other animated movies that are really swinging for the fences. I mean, you could argue that this started with Pixar and them, but what's been happening recently, specifically in the superhero genre, with these animated movies, is that they're basically saying we can do these movies that are beautiful to look at and have a great story, and also, you could take your kids and you won't be bored. It's not just like an emotional Pixar imaginary movie. It's stuff that you grew up with that you can introduce your children to in a way that's going to be effective both for them and you. That's what is happening with a movie like Spider-Man, with a movie like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. I don't know that that's necessarily happening with this movie. I didn't not like it. I thought it was all right. I do think that it starts with a very tired and basic premise, which is that these robots are essentially oppressed and they are in a system that requires them to kind of feed the machine, if you will, and work hard in order to make a quota. It's a plot that we've heard before, and it's a hero's journey. Somebody goes on a quest. Optimus Prime goes on a quest. His name isn't even Optimus Prime yet. It's Orion Pax. And he goes on a quest. And essentially, we know where it's going. We know that it's going to end up with him becoming Optimus Prime. That's not a spoiler. Like, if you saw the preview, you should know that this is where that's headed. I will say it's a dual origin story. It's both origin story of a hero and an origin story of a villain. Maybe that's a bit of a spoiler. I don't think it is either. Especially, again, if you've watched the preview, you should kind of know what to expect and know what's coming. I just think this movie is so... It works. It makes me work so hard to get to the part that I actually want. And not that it earns it, Like, we know where it's going. And I'm not saying that you have to do much work for me to appreciate it and earn it when we get there. But everything that happened just felt like a temporary setback to get us to exactly where we knew we were going, which was we know he's going to end up being Optimus Prime. So anything that stops him from doing that, we know is temporary. So I guess it's tough for me to like watch a movie like this in good faith and think, oh, okay, you know, this is solid. Like, this is, yeah, okay, I'm with you for the journey. I mean, when it gets to where it's going, sure, I'm excited. Sure, he finally gets there. Sure, I'm finally relieved. There's some bit of catharsis, but it just made me work so hard that by the time it was over, I was like, thank God. All right. Thank God he's Optimus Prime now. But that's not how I should feel. I should feel like I should be bought in at that point. And I don't know that I am. Like, I don't know that I would watch another one of these, and I don't even know if this actually redeemed the Transformers franchise, a franchise that has way too many entries. Way too many entries. I mean, I did Beast, Rise of the Beasts. I did that with Pamela. And then they also had Bumblebee. I did that a few years ago. Like, there's way too many entries in this franchise. And for y'all to come up with this one, it's still not come up with an effective way for me to be like enthused about it, to be like super excited about it, especially in this. I will say for kids, I think that this is a movie that will get them excited for Transformers. I think it will. I think it hits all the beats that are very familiar for kids. And I don't want to throw that out because I have said on this podcast before that I think that movies that are even for kids should be required to put in a little more effort. You can't just be like, well, it's a kids movie. Like, what do you expect? Like, you have to put in some effort. Kids are not dumb. And this movie, it is not dumbed down, you know? It is a message that may be tired and kind of treaded on for me, but I don't think that would stop a kid from watching this movie and completely enjoying it. So if you took your kids and you are a Transformers fan, I think you would probably end up liking this movie. But for me, it just, again, it was a lot of work to become the thing that I know you're going to become. So I don't know. That's probably kind of the same way I feel about the Joker movies, where I'm just like, just make him Joker already. Where's Batman? Like, why are y'all making me go through all of this effort when you know he's just going to end up being Joker? Like, I don't need to watch all this. And I know people are like, what? That movie was great. I just make him Joker already. Like, let's go. Like, it doesn't have to be that long. Like, there doesn't have to. And I think it's the amount of obstacles that I'm watching in this movie, from just his friend that just doesn't want to go on the quest with him, Optimus Prime, his friend who doesn't want to go on the quest with him, his like other allies who are just like, oh no, we have to be convinced. How is anyone going to convince us to do this thing? I'm like, I know you're going to do the thing because I know you're going to end up being Optimus Prime. So like, why are we even acting like any of these things are actually going to stop you? You know, like I think the problem with this, with a fixed point like this, is it's the problem that Rogue One avoids by introducing us to a bunch of characters that I had never seen before. Rogue One, the Star Wars film, if y'all remember it, it tells the origin of how they actually got the plans to blow up the Death Star. It is set before Episode 6, A New Hope, and in that one, you meet a bunch of new characters, and we do not know their fates. We do not know their fates, and I think that is an advantage because then I'm invested in the stakes. I know the stakes are absolutely there. As Nick Hill says, this movie doesn't really have stakes. Doesn't really have stakes. Don't know where it's going. Or, I'm sorry, I do know where it's going. It's going to a fixed point. So what are exactly the stakes here? That being said, the animation wasn't that great. There was a couple times I was watching this and it reminded me of that television show on ABC called Reboot. I don't know if y'all remember that. It reminded me of that. It just wasn't that smooth. There are times when I thought it looked better, but for the most part, I'm just thinking, again, in a world where you have mutant mayhem and Spider-Man enter the Spider-Verse, it just feels like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here? We could do a better job. And this is I'm sure the artists put in their best efforts. No disrespect to anybody like that, but come on, this could be better. With all of that being said, I think it's good enough. I walked out of the theater, somebody said, what'd you think of the movie? I was like, it was all right. And that's true, I think it's all right. Like, I'd probably change the channel if it came on television. But if I had kids in the room and I was forced to watch a movie with them, I would begrudgingly watch this and be like, nah, all right, I'll watch it. Yeah, that's fine. It'll keep the kids entertained for X amount of time. Like, that's perfectly fine. So with all that being said, I think this is a solid 3-star movie. I think it's fine. It'll get you out of the heat, even though the temperature has dropped a little bit. By the time you're hearing this, it's going to be fall, so maybe it's crisp now. Who knows? I am recording this in August because they gave us the screener way earlier than they normally do. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a 3-star movie. I think you might enjoy it. If you have kids, they'll like it. Worth taking them to. Voices that you're familiar with. Chris Hemsworth does a fine job. Tyree Henry does a probably more complex job, and it makes sense that he was cast for this role because he had to go on a journey, and I think he did a very good job voice acting that. So I think that was good. Other than that, nobody really stood out to me. Scarlett Johansson is in the movie. She plays Scarlett Johansson. Nothing really spectacular there. Yeah, 3-star movie. And with that, Leaving the Theater is a production of Oh, It's Big Round Studios. I mixed this episode, and per usual, I'm coming to you with my hat in my hand saying, please, please, please support the Patreon. Give us your hard-earned money so we can keep making this show every single week. It's just me. I always say we. When I say we, I mean me. It's just Ronald, and I mix an episode every week. I remember, if this is coming out in September, you probably remember a day in August when the episode was supposed to come out on Monday. I believe the episode was called, what was the episode called? Oh man, the episode was Alien Romulus, and it was supposed to come out on a Monday, and it didn't come out till Tuesday. That was because it was up to me. And on Sunday, I wasn't feeling very well, so I missed the deadline. And I mean, it's just me. So anytime something like that happens with the show, know that it's because there's a decision that I had to make at one point, and I'm the only one who's making this decision. I'm not saying that you giving money is going to give me more people to give, to have more decisions to make or anything like that. But what I do say is every cent you give makes it easier for me. It takes a little bit of pressure off of me. It makes more tasks. It gives me the ability to automate more of my tasks. It allows me to outsource and offload a little bit of my workload. So all of that matters. And if that matters to you, especially if independent audio matters to you, go to patreon.com/leavingthetheater or go to the link in our show notes. Show art from Heather Wilder. Theme music by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. For more information about Transformers 1, check out our show notes. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or Threads at OHitsBigRon. That's at OHITSBIGRON. You can find out more about this show and other Oh It's Big Round Studios shows by following us on Instagram at Oh It's Big Round Studios and on Twitter at Oh It's Big Round Stew. That's STEW. Leaving the Theater will be back soon. Thanks for listening.